Now then, just a few months ago, Warcry was released. Just over 4 months ago. And it was quite simplistic, it was a breath of fresh air, and it was received very well. And then within 2 months, we received another book, Monsters and Mercenaries, which expanded our gameplay a little bit. And it allowed us to bring new members into our warbands. And it freshened things up a bit. It also gave us some monsters, so things like the Chimera that came out, and a few other things to add into the game to freshen things up. And then only a couple of months later, less than 3 months later, we've got the Tome of Champions 2019. Now, I reviewed this last week. I received it in the post and I had it reviewed within a day. Now, before I posted it up, I had a really good think about it. And on first look, it felt like it was just a way to bring in more warbands that we didn't even have the stats for. And a lot of this book is dedicated to that. It really is. But I went back and I took another look and I really went through what new things this adds in to our existing warbands and where we move on from here. And I am a massive fan of the Tome of Champions 2019. So if people tell you that, or if you read a review that says, this is just to add new warbands into it, it is not. This is a expansion in, the true sense of the word. True sense of the word. This expands existing gameplay and offers you some really, really interesting and new ways to play the game. So, let's have a quick run through it, and I'll tell you what is new. So, typically, this expands the gameplay, blah, 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 all this sort of stuff. So the real nitty-gritty gets here. So we start looking at open play. So, the first thing we've got is open play terrain. Now, if you bought the starter set, or you bought one of the terrain expansions and that kind of thing, you've got everything you need. However, as you can see, it's added some new terrain that will come from what you already have. So how do you do that? Normally, you'd have a terrain card which will tell you how to set up the game and that kind of thing. But what this expansion gives us is a terrain generator. So it will give us a way to build up our battle scene without the need of any specific Warcry terrain. And I really like this. I think it's really cool because it allows us to be more versatile and change the game the way we want to do it. And what I did even was I photocopied this and made a little terrain generator card. So this is a tarot card which I've just cut the edge off of. But yeah, so I like that. I like that we can now bring in as much terrain as we want. I know we could have done that before, it's up to us how we play the game and that kind of thing, but I think this is a good addition for us. Then we've got Monstrous Melees. Now, I'm not such a big fan of this. This basically allows us to have big fights with big monsters, played over a number of battle rounds. It's quite interesting. I think it's quite good. I think it would be better played with a higher player count. It's just two monsters battling it out. Isn't that interesting? But yeah, it adds something new to the game. Nothing too exciting here for me, but it's all right. So now we've got the narrative play. So this is the main section for bringing in new warbands. So, and what I've done with this, I don't really want to be referring to 3 different books just to play a game of Warcry. So what I've done, again, is I've photocopied the Slaves to Darkness, because this will be the first one I do when the cards come out. Photocopied that, and then a tournament roster on there as well. So I'll be able to use this, but in no particular order: Slaves to Darkness, Ossiarch Bone Reapers, Ogre Moor Tribes, Caradron Overlords, Disciples of Tzeentch, the Skaven, the Warrior Chamber for Stormcast, the Beasts of Chaos, Fire Slayers, the Sylvaneth, the Sacrosanct Chamber, the Blades of Khorne, the Maggotkin of Nurgle, Heather Knights of Slaanesh, Seraphon. Okay, then it goes on to our Spoils of Victory, exactly the same way as we've got in the core book, but again, just applied to our new warbands. So then we've got the Fated Quests. So what are these? These are campaigns that you can play once you've finished your warbands standard campaign. So these are 8 new campaigns you can play completely differently. Now, one other thing that it adds into it is it adds an honour or glory option. And so once one of your quests is finished, you will have an option of taking honour or glory. And what that does, that if you take honour, it goes to your standard artifacts of power and that kind of thing. If you choose glory, you get to choose an exalted command trait. And so the command traits, for example, are you roll a d3. If you get a 1, you get Honest Fighter. This warrior's bloody-minded determination has seen them triumph in countless battles. Add 1 to the attack characteristics of attack actions made by this fighter that have a range of 3 or less. Honor 2, if this fighter is included in your warband, you begin the battle with 1 additional wild dice. Or 3, add 1 to the move characteristics of this fighter. So actually adding to the stats of your fighter, as opposed to giving them individual kind of pieces of material to use. And I think that's really cool as well. That's really interesting. So there's 8 of those. And again, the Spoils of Victory also have an honour or glory outcome as well. Okay, so next we're going to move on to challenge battles. And for this, you will need to buy the Shattered Dominion Objectives expansion for Age of Sigmar. So what does this do? So it pits your warband against a specially set up player known as the adversary. So what does that mean? Basically, when you play one of these missions, it will tell you what you need to do. So this one, the Tomb of Saint Artemir, the warbands, the challenger and the adversary must muster a warband as described in the core rules with the following amendments. So the challenger, so your own warband, must be chosen from your warband roster. The fighters in the adversary's warband must have the Restless Undead rune mark, and we'll get to what those are in a minute. The adversary player's warband does not need to include a leader, and the combined points value of fighters in each warband cannot exceed 1,000. And so that's fine. So that one's fairly straightforward. However, as you go through them, there are some quests where you have to pick an individual model or a new character. So this one's the Travelling Wizard. We've also got Haktor Ran, who is one of the Slaves to Darkness Sorcerers models. There's another one, Lord Splinterbone. So again, adding really different gameplay options. Some of them you can only have a warband of 750 points and that kind of thing. So it really does help to freshen things up and make things different and make it an absolute challenge. So that's those. Then we've got Trial of Champions, which is a different way of playing your campaigns. So it introduces things like permanent wounds, changes to stats. It introduces a separate glory point system, so you can spend points on additional fighters, and it includes kind of territory exploration in the aftermath phase of battle, which will allow you to put more ways of gaining artifacts of power and that kind of thing, or even extra wild dice and more glory points. So that's interesting. So here is what I love. So we've got roaming beasts, and before when I was talking about the restless undead icon, so basically the roaming beasts are ways to exchange your beasts of chaos. So our flying chicken dudes and the little demons with wings, we can swap those out for either wild cave creatures, which is a mixture of squigs and troggoths, or the restless undead, which is basically a mixture of tomb banshees, the grave guard, skeletons, chain rasps, spirit hosts, the white king or Cairn Wraith. And I really like that. I really like having a different way to introduce different models into this. So if you look at the restless undead, some of these models are only I think the cheapest one there is 55 points. So if you've got a twist card that allows you to add, 400 points worth of roaming beasts into it, you could add 7 of those. You could really, really change the gameplay. And I really like that. I think it's a huge addition. And I'm going to do another video in the next couple of days where I'm going to give you what I would like to see in the next core box that comes out, which I'm expecting to see probably in the next 3 or 4 months. And what I did for these as well was I photocopied this again, and I created little cards there. So I don't have to constantly refer back to this book. So I'll be able to get all the stats from the Restless Undead and from our wild cave creatures. So just to make things a little bit easier. Okay, then we've got our background tables, so we can roll dice to choose names for our fighters and their origin and all that kind of stuff, which I've never bothered to do any of this, but I'm sure loads of people have. Then we've got new match play options that go on from those in the core book. On the following pages, you'll find new finely balanced pitched battle scenarios to test your tactical skills, as well as expanded rules for using hidden agendas as a secondary objective, and tiebreaker in Warcry tournaments. Okay, so these are just ways to, in match play, set up different types of battles. And then we've got these hidden agendas. So like it says, it can be used as a tie break. So I'll give you an example of one of them. Hidden agenda, the champion. At the end of this battle, you complete this hidden agenda if your enemy leader has been taken down, but your leader has not. And so what I've done, again, to make it easier, I just photocopied these. And so I've made it almost so you can just pick them blind, because I think these would be interesting to add into the gameplay anyway. Then we've got escalation tournaments. So this is like building a campaign through a tournament game, through a tournament system. So you almost start at a bare bones warband and you build upon it as you play through the tournament, which is pretty cool. Then we've got updates to the campaign rules. So this is a slightly different table to the ones we've looked at previously. And then it's got some designers' commentary notes and that kind of thing as well. Now we've got the fighter cards. So the card packs that came out when Warcry was initially released were a limited print run. And so if you got them, great. I managed to get them all and I'm really happy. But if you didn't, they are all reprinted in the book. And again, I will likely photocopy this, or I won't because I've got the cards, but you can photocopy this and you can almost cut out your own cards and do whatever you need to do. So these are cool. So nothing new here. But if you didn't get those cards the first time around, there you are. And then we've got a tournament roster sheet that you can photocopy and use. So this adds a hell of a lot of new gameplay as far as I'm concerned. And I think it's an excellent addition to what we've already got. Now, when I think about that, then 2 months, then 2.5 months, it is a lot to come out in a short period of time. But I will have to say that the core gameplay is slimmed down from a lot of other kind of Games Workshop releases. So I think that to add to the gameplay quite quickly, I think it's fair enough. I think it's pretty cool, and especially when they kind of freshen up the gameplay fairly quickly. So what are we going to see in the coming year? So there will be a Tome of Champions 2020, I'm sure of that. I mean, the book itself wasn't that expensive. I think I paid about £12 for it, something like that. Obviously not buying it from Games Workshop. But yeah, I like it a lot. And I am looking forward to kind of continuing my Warbands campaign with the Fated quests specifically. So there you go, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. If you disagree with me, you think I'm wrong, you think it's shameless kind of money-making idea and all that kind of stuff, then let me know in the comments. Same way as if you agree, let me know as well. I want to kind of get us talking about this because I love Warcry and I'm looking forward to what next year brings. So thanks very much for watching, guys. Much appreciated. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe and all that good stuff, and I'll catch you soon.